Welcome to the Future of Hiring series. Candid insights from founders, talent leaders, and recruiters about duct-taped hiring, resume carpet bombs, hiring magic wand, and more. Introducing Nazneen Batliwalla, the Sassy HR Lady, where HR gets real, hilarious, and radically honest.
The time, and this is part of the Future of Work series. We are doing a few webinars, mostly with founders and talent leaders, people in recruitment roles, to understand their perspectives as to how the future of work is being shaped in the context of AI, remote work, and a lot of other disruptions which we have seen in the current times.
Sure.
So, towards that, let's first start with more around your story. So, let's get started with you, Nazneen. Tell us more about yourself and how did you make the pivotal shift from an HR leader to the sassy HR lady?
So, here's a fun fact. I was always sassy, and if given, HR was never my first choice, to kind of take up as a profession. But I guess, like I always say, my parents and a bunch of South Bombay friends and relatives decided that I should probably take up HR.
Okay.
So I did kind of take it up. But I think the good point of it is that although HR is not really seen as a very, a very hip and a happening profession, compared to marketing and advertising.
We
So I
always found
decided
HR to be
kind
a
of-
hip profession.
Yeah, so I decided that why not take something boring and turn it around. And I think while it's kept me very grounded, while it's given me a great insight into people and skills, I think there were a lot of things which were happening in HR which required to be called out. Like, for example, there were certain policies which were being framed from the organization point of view and not necessarily the people point of view. So I saw a lot of things and practices. I started questioning a lot of things, and the answer always was that this is a part of the policy, or this has been there since eons.
Got it.
So that's what led me to kind of channelize myself in probably putting together some great interventions with a more forward-thinking approach. Because Abhijit, I believe that HR is an impact function. I would not necessarily call it's an impact. Whether you support the business or whether you do it as a support function, it's about the impact you create. So that's how I decided, and I started making sure that in whichever organizations I've been a part of, I make HR a function for people to look up to rather than just an administrative function. But over the years, I also realized that probably I am just kind of performance issues are nothing but looking at people tantrums and behaviors at the end of the day.
Right.
So I decided that there's a lot which needs to be spoken. There's a lot of real talk. There are a lot of insights which need to be given. And of course, if something is given on a little lighter note and a little bit of sass, I think that's more impactful. So that's where the entire concept of Sassy HR Lady has kind of come into play, where a lot of people probably would look at it as a rebel, but I feel a rebel is also somebody who brings around a change, brings about a positive reinforcement.
Absolutely.
So I started out on the journey of, calling out a lot of outdated practices and looking at what organizations could better and how we can actually make HR a great catalyst in defining the future of work. So that's how, and I think 15 years of experience is good, where you get all the experience and the masala to churn out the necessary content. And I felt that in today's space, like I always say, when I started my career, there was nobody really mentoring me and giving me real talk. Everybody probably just gave us gyan that this is how things are, this is how things should work. So that entire adaptability, what I see, that entire shift and that entire space, especially between Gen Zs and corporates, is a huge gap today. Because that's why we see Gen Zs and corporates both ranting against each other on LinkedIn. I think every third post is about this. So how can HR come in? How can Sassy HR Lady come in as a game changer to make a difference, to make an impact, to build a community where people actually look and say, hey, you know what? This is something new and this is what HR should be. So that's actually been my journey. I would probably we could just go talking about it, but this is what I would say Sassy HR Lady is all about. It's more of a movement, in HR. That's what I am.
All right. So you're kind of playing or you're kind of providing the bridge between the
Yes.
Gen Z as well as the more conventional
Perfect.
HR folks. And I think that is much needed. I think it's something which a lot of people will appreciate. I think there's a big divide, there's a growing divide. And that's
Right.
where I think you've come in. All right. So let's talk more about your yesteryears, your past life as an HR person. So we know like hiring is often a blend of, it's an art as well as a science, right? And a lot of times there are good candidates who get left behind, and a lot of misfits, not to call them bad candidates, that come through the cracks, right? So typically what we call it is like statistical type 1 and type 2 hiring errors. Like you miss out on the good folks and you tend to hire a lot of bad fits, so to safely put it forward. So during your years as an HR person, right, what have been your experiences in avoiding biases, guesswork, to avoid these type 1 errors, type 2 errors, so that you get the best of talent and avoid the misfits?
Yeah, so I think you've really pressed a nerve out here. And I think, like I always say, hiring is part art, part science, and part black magic. That's how I've always kind of defined hiring as. And to answer your question, I think what I specifically focused on how to deal with these type 1 on type 2 dramas is that I did rely on certain structured assessments and objective matrix. So while vibe and gut plays a very important role, which I've actually placed bets on and won in organizations, I think to see a good blend of scorecards, objective metrics, and whether the candidate is just talking faff or is he can actually do his job. So I think that was one thing which I always looked at. That is it a good blend of both. The second thing I also felt that, see, we all come with a lot of our biases, right? So
Absolutely.
Every interviewer has a different bias. So it's always good to have a cross-functional interview committee. And I think because everybody has their own filters of seeing a candidate, right? So having a cross-functional committee would give you more insights because you know what you're looking at when you're hiring somebody in your team. I may not want the certain DNA. But if a group of people come and see vibe vis-a-vis culture, vis-a-vis organizational fit and put all these pieces together, I think that's the better win in kind of minimizing your type 1 errors. I think another thing which I carefully put in place was I set up post-hire reviews.
Okay.
So I think that is also very important for every committee came together after a certain hiring round of certain candidates to review, said what went well, what did you look for in a candidate and why. So there was an entire debate stroke discussion on that to review the entire process and eliminate the loopholes. And I think that is very necessary. And I think at the end of the day, culture calibration and not personality guessing, as how I had put it in my mind also, is what mattered, right? Because see, skills can be taught, adaptability, curiosity, and attitude cannot. So I just focused on these signals. And another thing, what I did is I did all of this in a week's time. Because there is an entire grievance of not getting back to the candidate on time and stuff like that. So we made sure that the people in the cross-functional committee understood that hiring is not just an HR's job. You need to understand it is an organization function. The hiring manager is equally responsible like the HR. In fact, we also had hiring as one of the KPIs put in the hiring manager's JD, because I think that was very important. So good amalgamation of all this, yes. For me, I think any process to set, it's not setting the process, but it's the adaptability to the process. The moment you get all hands in on a certain process, I think it becomes very smooth and free flowing. So I think that is what I managed to achieve, and it did work out in eliminating a lot of tier 1, tier 2 errors, especially where the CV looks very impressive and when it kind of comes. So that entire journey from the CV to meeting the candidate to hiring the candidate and to seeing him actually do the job, there have been instances when this is very shocking, the entire process. But I think by doing these things and by getting people a little more invested in getting the right candidate, I think we were able to make that difference and that impact.
All right. So pretty interesting perspective. And while we are on that topic about adaptability, as well as like the related set of issues which you talked about and how to counter them.
Sure.
So let's discuss something which has recently got spotlight, which is what we call as the Soham Gate phenomenon. Right. So again, you might have heard about a candidate having around 37 jobs across a span of 3 or 4 odd years, and 3 or 4 simultaneous jobs. And this phenomenon has been compounded by the introduction of remote jobs, or I would say the increase in remote job hiring trends post-pandemic. And another related trend, what we have seen is like the candidates have adapted to new technologies like AI, be it for cheating during interviews and something else, especially during remote interviews. While the HR, we feel, and we also hear from a lot of other founders, they have not kept pace. So we recently put out a video saying like, are you still hiring as they did in the 1920s, like doing face reading? So what is your perspective, and also tell us if you had such, I would say, interesting interview experiences, and what were your learning takeaways, and what would be your advice to recruiters on how to adapt to the changing realities in Soham Gate phenomenon.
So I'll actually start with your earlier question of the Soham Parekh. Yeah. I think that's something which definitely tickled a funny bone and, kind of brought it out. So honestly, when I was, looking at the Soham phenomenon, on one hand, I feel it's a very bold, chaotic and Gen Z meets burnout capitalism kind of thing.
Right.
On the other hand, it's trying to date 3 startups at once,
Right.
And it's like eventually you're going to screw up. Eventually you're going to find your Slack saying, meeting while you're pitching and working on another project. So it's very interesting. But I think another more insightful thing, I don't know whether you've heard this from many, is that let's not pretend that companies are saints, right? So I think every company loves a hustle culture till the hustle isn't for them. You know what I mean? And I think a very interesting point about the Soham phenomenon is, and my verdict, and I've been very vocal about it, is that think about this: if corporates can downsize overnight, employees can diversify their daylight hours.
All right. So diversification is how the Gen Z thinks about it.
Yeah. So, and that's what the Gen Z thinks about it. And I feel that, Gen Zs are remarkable. I'm not kind of saying that to get their votes, but I think when I'm talking about Gen Zs, I'm talking about Gen Zs in the HR space. I'm talking about Gen Zs like every day in my work course, I learn something different. I learn something insightful from a Gen Z. And I think one personal lesson which I've learned from Gen Zs is keeping boundaries at work. I think that's something which I would probably write a book on, or what, I don't know, but I think they take the cake. I mean, we are here writing outdated job descriptions, and they are inventing future of work descriptions. I mean, I don't know if you've looked at LinkedIn recently, there are so many posts on, a doom scroller. Who knew that a doom scroller is a profession?
It's a profession, right?
Yeah. Who knew that teaching AI to boomers is a profession? Like a boomer can go online and today with ChatGPT or whatever learn it by himself, but there are people minting money out of just teaching them this. AI ethicists. I mean, when I'm reading the job description, so I'm thinking Gen Z has actually spun the entire thing around. And as far as talking about AI and adaptability in HR is concerned, I remember when I tried introducing even like these systems like Darwinbox, Keka, Asanify today, the entire HRMS revolution which has come, it has definitely, yes, helped ease hiring, but I think the HRs really need to go a little bit beyond kind of just looking at the traditional HRMS.
All right.
Like for example, I don't know if there is a separate question on this, but if I had to actually put together my Future of Work HR platform, this is what I would do. You
preempted one of the questions that we had, but
okay.
But go ahead.
Okay.
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
To
so
hear.
I think I actually preempted this, and Abhijit, sorry, I think it's very interesting that we are talking about this because I've always proclaimed that I'm a Gen Z at heart, although I've been by birth here I'm a millennial. But I think when I'm putting together a platform and I'm like all open and calling out people to help me put together this platform where I'm going to have a concept of skill currency.
Skill currency.
So,
okay, could you elaborate?
Skill currency. Yes. So what I would like to do is I would like to create a live dynamic skills wallet which shows what you can do today, not what you studied 10 years ago.
Okay, a live skill wallet that shows what you can do today,
not
10 years ago.
A live skills wallet. What you can do today, not what you did 10 years ago basis what you should go into. Second thing, very important, this is for Gen Zs, this is for millennials, this is for boomers and beyond. I think an interview gym is very important.
Interview gym.
You have to train for an interview. You have to train for interviews like athletes train for marathons. Mock sessions, curveball questions, time zone drills. I think all of it. I think an interview gym is like this 24/7 coffee shop where you need to kind of go anytime and update your interview skills.
All right. Okay, so when we
used
to get time, we used to go for a ping pong session. So you're recommending for the Gen Z, when they get time, they should go to this interview gym, play a few sessions and then come back. Interesting.
Yes. And another very important thing, I think that there should be a section for opportunity matchmaking. There would be smart, I don't know how, obviously AI would help you do this, but smart algorithms would just serve roles which would actually fit.
Okay.
And you could also filter out the bullshit, or you could actually get what a company's culture is, not just a company we have pizza Fridays or we have karaoke Thursdays, but insight into what culture dynamics a company is putting on the table. So see, in this platform, what I feel, you get skills, you get preparation, and you get opportunity in one place.
Skill, opportunity,
so people
and preparation.
Can put together everything. Sorry?
No, I was just trying to rephrase. I was just trying to rephrase the three things you talked about. So the ideal future of work platform is where the Gen Z or the job seeker would get skills, opportunities, and prep. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Skills, prep, opportunity.
Yep.
Why would I go on multiple job boards and go crazy when I get a platform which is giving me all this? Because this is what your training is. This is basically what you need. Roti kapda makan of Gen Z.
Right? Roti kapda makan of, I would say, recruitment. Right.
Yeah. Just think of it. It's like imagine something like this coming into play. And imagine a company which imagine if you're putting together this Future of Work platform, you get multiple buy-in from all the generations. The idea is, it's like I don't know whether you watch this Bads of Bollywood on Netflix.
It's on my radar, it's on my playlist, but didn't get an opportunity.
But everybody and every generation who has watched it has raved about it. So you need to see that formula which gets all of them aligned together on a particular project. Imagine if that formula was actually used in the workplace.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming from. Embrace the new as well as respect the old. We have to have a good blend of both. And that's how the future of work will actually be the future. That's what I feel.
Very interesting. So we slightly off topic, but while we are on
Sure.
the topic of interviews and
Sure.
preparation, we
Sure.
do have an AI interviewer platform, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is
Mhm.
because it also popped up in my last interview with a very prolific digital nomad
Sure.
with around 250,000 followers on Instagram and similarly on YouTube. So
I
she
get it. Yeah.
so
Yeah,
she
sure.
mentioned that if you are applying for a remote job in particular, then there's one thing that you cannot escape and you must prepare proactively for it is for the AI interviewer. It's a new phenomenon both for the HR, the recruiter, as well as for the candidate. And
Sure.
it's a completely different ball game because there is no human intervention involved, right?
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
from the place when a candidate auto schedules all the way till the rejection or shortlist to the next stage happens, there is absolutely no human intervention. These are just thresholds and metrics set by the business owners or the talent leaders. So, in this context of the interview gym or prep, what are your perspectives, your thoughts or thought on the preparation? How is it changing? What are the new dynamics? How does it affect both the recruiter side as well as the candidate side?
So, very interestingly, I think especially when you're doing the interview gym, a lot of topics relevant to the Gen Z, like we always say, one is the technical skill, and one is, of course, your behavioral skill. Right? This has been kind of this prep has been. That's how the entire concept of psychometric tests and everything have come into play. So, I think an interview gym should also have certain preps for Gen Zs in terms of how to build their mental muscle for corporates.
All right. So I think
Because
that's something which is missing.
why
It's
is
usually a technical question asked, and there is a set answer against which AI evaluates. But this is something which is not exactly a soft skill, but it is like something which is not out there, right? It's latent.
because nobody is preparing them for that, and that's the
Absolutely.
reason we have today people writing and making things viral. Like they have social media, we really didn't use or abuse social media. So when I see a Gen Z putting up a write up saying that my boss was rude to me in a team meeting and I quit, and then it going viral on LinkedIn, and I'm like, nobody even knows what exactly happened, right? So what is it that those skills in terms of, was it a communication gap, was it a behavioral issue, was it just feedback about your job and you took it personally? Like this is something which I've seen across age groups.
Let's continue with your experiences around hiring, right?
Okay.
So, what we have observed in our discussions with a lot of talent leaders is they are facing still what we call as duct tape hiring, right? So, yeah, specifically talking about the technologies used, right? So, to hire one candidate, we often see recruiters having at least a dozen browser tabs open, right, from LinkedIn as a job board to an applicant tracking system, different kind of messaging systems. They're always on the phone call. We recently had a very fun video showing an alien having 6 phone calls at once, trying to recruit one candidate. So, have you been in these positions on duct tape hiring, and what are your perspectives around that?
So yes, definitely. I think that was at one point of time my daily cardio, broken duct tape hiring, And I've realized that whatever and however you try to put it together, it breaks everywhere. And why does it break and where does it break? So what I have articulated is that the first and foremost is information silos. Because I feel that everyone has the latest version of a resume, and none of them are actually the latest version.
Yeah, it's
So I
resume
think
version 1.1.11 or something.
Yeah. So I think that's one thing. So which brings me to my second point, which is the communication chaos.
Okay.
It's like people are just randomly communicating. Sometimes you're communicating with somebody who's already left the chat or just picking up a thread from 3 months ago. So I think that's another major miss where I would see, and the reason why it kind of breaks. And I think that the third thing, I think the most important, which I don't know what's ever going to be a solution for this, is a decision paralysis. Too many opinions, too many cooks spoiling the broth. Suddenly, every hiring thing becomes like a team alignment meeting, a management level leadership decision. So I think these are the major factors which are causing things to leak and break everywhere. And hiring doesn't need duct tape, yeah. It just needs clarity. It needs one system. That's what I feel. So this is what my experience has been, and this is what my takeaways have been when it comes to duct tape hiring.
All right. So sounds pretty cool. A lot of terms you mentioned. Now
Yeah.
let's have a couple of rapid fire questions. So if you were to go back in time travel and fix one recruitment woe or hiring mistake, what would that be and why?
Okay, so you will have to quickly, although it's rapid fire, I think you'll have to
You
give me
can
a bit, you know,
all
good that it's now kind of coming back to me, is that one thing where I had to fix, which I earlier also mentioned in the interview, that sometimes we have the perfect resume, the person interviews like a dream, but somehow we manage to hire somebody else.
all right.
you know so I think that is one HR horror story, and I think that's one horror story which has been kind of going up through centuries. And I think that is one recruitment woe which I would definitely like to fix from my past. And what I think is that, and this has been recurring, and see, like I say, that hiring is not just an HR function. There's a lot more cross-functional people. There's the organization goal in mind. There is a manager in terms of what deliverables and KPIs he wants. So I think that experience is always going to be something very raw and real for me. And I think it has taught me very three important things. And call it gyan or whatever, but I keep kind of freeloading this to people. I think first and foremost, one needs to trust their gut. However good the CV may be, however perfect, but there is something, there's a reason why, people keep having these discussions and arguments, gut feel over what you think. So I think trusting your gut is very important. Second thing is very important is the culture fit. I keep saying that you may have the perfect candidate from everywhere, but the culture is what enables him to thrive and survive. So, like common things, that if you're looking at a place which is very chaotic and you get somebody from a very structured person who follows the Bible, who doesn't go from A to C, he has to go through B and stuff like that. If you get him and put him into an environment where you start from probably a P or a Z, that person is not going to thrive. And he's going to self-doubt himself and totally question himself and his credibility, at the same time not perform. So it's a loss for both. And third is a very interesting takeaway which I've got, is that you always need to do a good background check of even the references who people have given you, because you may be giving your stepmom as a reference, or a girlfriend as a reference. I mean, you know what I mean. And another interesting thing which I also feel, Abhijit, which is very important for the future of work, and I've been like screaming about this since a decade now, that when a person asks for references, you need to also give references of people who didn't get along with you professionally. Because then you get to know that what are the difficulties. It's like baad mein to pata chalna hi hai, right? So why not before? Why not I say that, hey, you know what? I'm great as an individual performer, but as a team, I cannot perform because I am very anal about how I do things, and the team just doesn't get it.
I guess it's a parallel from dating. Like, you better present your worst self.
Yeah. Like everybody looks good on a first Bumble date, but then when you start this, you just psychotic behaviors come. You realize that the person is already married twice later on when he's dating you and stuff. So I think be as real as you can. And asking for these two reference checks of people, I don't think anybody is doing it, but I would do it. Like, instead of asking you what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, a lot of people accept their weaknesses also. That's one thing. But just imagine, since your role involves working with multiple people, why can you not share a reference of one person in an organization who had issues working with you, strictly professional, but you guys could never just agree on anything? And that I feel is something which is something which we should have done long time back, because then a lot of performance issues which come up would have already been tapped in advance. That okay, so then I accordingly give you roles which cater more through your strengths and don't put you in those furnace roles which test you, because everything is not a test. I'd rather work with a person's strength than pushing him into his weak spot and saying, "Kaise nahi karega, perform kar." So I think this is something, if I could go back and change about hiring, I'll be more than happy to do it.
Yeah, this entire topic of background verification and reference check, it's like a rabbit hole. We could go very deep into it.
How do you do it? How do you do it? Except your qualifications, of course, for colleges, you don't even know who you're talking to on the phone. You know what I mean?
And the situation
even people
is
who
more
send these long
compounded
forms
with
on email.
AI. Like now you wouldn't even trust a face.
Like imagine AI giving me that, okay, these are your strengths. This is like the MBTI, if you've heard of the MBTI personality assessment. But AI gives you something, because MBTI is a little old school. But if you're looking at something to do with AI and probably throwing up at your recruiter saying, hey, you know what? This is the role you're considering. These are the strengths. These are do they fit in your role? So it gives you a reality check also, that if Abhijit is interviewing me for an interview, am I the right fit? Although my CV says that, but does that align with my traits? Does that align with the other stuff? Does that also align with my ref checks of people who've not exactly given me a rosy ref check?
Nice. As I said, like each of these topics we can delve deeper, but let's save that for another time.
Each of this is an encyclopedia, and I'll be more happy to break it down. In fact, I'm also currently, as we speak, I'm working on a 90-day playbook for an individual in the organization. And and this is for anybody, right? So basically that playbook is relevant even if you're a 15-year experienced person, and even if you're just kind of entering the workplace as a fresher or 2 years of work ex.
So as
because the first 90,
playbook, let's talk about something that often comes into the way of people who are trying to create content, and which is again, it's a question, hint, AI, right? So a lot of authors, lot of publishers, they are getting disrupted. What do we write? You can just put any topic out there and there's content coming in. So you can answer this question from the perspective of a job seeker or even from a recruiter, right?
Okay.
When you look at AI, when you're trying to put out new HR collateral out there, new blueprints, new kind of playbooks out there, do you see AI as a recruiter or as a job seeker as a threat, or do you see it more as a catalyst? Like, what is your perspective on it?
So, Abhijit, I think there is no choice over here for me. I would downright look at AI as a catalyst.
All right.
I think AI is something which has thrown up a lot of facts. I feel AI has been AI is the voice which was probably not heard or shunned down, if I could say it. It's just because it is a technology coming to us, probably saying things which a lot of us tried saying earlier, but were shunned down. AI is doing that.
Okay. So
for example, there is an app. There is a company called Infido, and they have a chatbot called Amber, which kind of throws up. So they were like the first AI automated chatbot. I remember in 2017 when I was working for an organization, part of a huge group, where I said, and that time they only had annual surveys, Gallup, and Gallup is one of the the godfathers of annual engagement surveys. So I went and I said, let's just scrap it. I don't want to talk to people annually. I want to talk to them right from their first day of joining to 6 months at a 15, 30, 45, 60 day, and then probably look at these regular intervals. And that's how I want to probably assess them basis their skill sets, basis their performance. So it was like a mini AI model, a mini version of a platform in my head where I'm mapping everything, including the journey, designing life cycle experiences and stuff like that. But that time, there wasn't really a platform which basically mixed everything together. right? There were either LMSs which were separately looked at, or probably there were HRIS systems, but there was nothing which was putting together, or there was like a Darwin box which helped in hiring as well as HRMS, but there was nothing which put all of it together. Now it's just AI has come and said, hey, you know what, let's just do this. So AI has basically just come as that basic oiling which is pushing the engine which has been wanting to move. So definitely look at it. I mean, just look at I would rather say that AI is here to facilitate and help you. In fact, putting together the right resumes. I think resume sorting has been the biggest nightmare of HRs. Like if I have 100 CVs in my inbox, I am being very honest. I am not going to look at all those 100 CVs with the equal thing. I'm being very honest about it. I'm admitting to it. So if I actually have AI segregating it and matching it as per my JDs and departments, and also very important kind of managers I'll have to work with, because that is another huge woe for a lot of people who leave organizations. So this is, your manager is an Nazi. Will you match well with him or no? And see, these are very real things. I'm not really trying to roast or this, but these are real experiences. So why not you have somebody kind of giving you the alarm about these experiences earlier only, so okay, what, let me just focus on work. This is how I can work my way around with him. Because at the end of the day, no matter how good you are with your work, if you're unable to get it done with the rest of the team, you're not going to be a performer. You're not going to be able to achieve your end goal. So AI is a catalyst in so many things.
All right.
Like,
So AI and future, I think they are very closely intertwined. So let's talk about future proofing our own skills. This could also be an advice, since you have ventured out from the corporate. What would be your advice, and what have been your experiences in terms of future proofing your skills in the context of AI and remote work, and what would be your advice to anyone?
That's a very, very good question, and I think I am very passionate about future proofing my skills. So I would say that for me and my advice about future proofing, see, I'm like that, what do you call, a steroid bunny when it comes to being a curious person, right? So I'm always poking my nose into new tools, AI hacks. If I read something and if I don't get it, I'll probably call a Gen Z and saying, what is this? Sit with me, tell me what it is there. Because today's trend and meme will be tomorrow's marketing campaign. So one needs to really understand that it is curiosity. Second thing, I think experiment as much as you can. I think that's what I've learned. Don't try to be perfect, just experiment. Like I try, it doesn't work out. And I think a lot of my content ideas have come out of the things which I've experimented. So I think one should constantly continue experimenting. And third is very important, not to make it sound creepy, but people watching. I think people watching is something, not in a creepy way, but look at what people are whining about, laughing about, or raging about.
Okay.
There's a lot you get to learn about culture and about behavior. So that also enriches your experience and brightens and completely kind of enlarges your circle. So I think these three takeaways for me are very important to future-proof myself. Like I have to be in people. I have to be constantly knowing what people are talking about. So even if, for example, if I'm working out of a coffee shop or something, when I'm not working, also interacting with a lot of people, understanding what they are doing, like what is exciting them, what are their thoughts. So I think a lot of your enriching and future-proofing your skills comes from that as well. So very strangely, it comes from AI, but it also comes from regular people interaction. So it's a beautiful mix of technology and real-time human connect.
Human plus AI. Right? I think that is the future of work. So that brings us to the closure of the interview, Nazneen. And I have just one last question, which is around any last thoughts that you have around how the future of work is going to look like, both for recruiters as well as job seekers.
So, I would say that, I am here on a mission, okay? My mission as Sassy HR Lady is to make work suck less, for the lack of a better way. Right. And if that means pushing remote work, I think pushing remote work, pushing certain outdated, I think we need to eliminate what is outdated, and we need to actually sit and devise a new set of policies. We need to devise new work ethos and new work culture. That's the future of work. You cannot move in the future by looking behind and still following the outdated and the backdated. Like today, for example, I read about this company called Good Flipping Burgers, who's introduced salary at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember me suggesting that in 2018, and they actually looked at me as if I was some outcast or as if I had made a very non-professional or corporate comment. And they're like, "Are you crazy?" But today I'm happy that
We worked on those technologies. It's pretty much out there.
Exactly, and there was no reason why this couldn't have been done in 2018. You know what I mean? The technology was still there. My point is it doesn't necessarily have to work as a lighthouse effect where the moment the light shines on something, only then you need to spark up. Because the future of work is that things should be consistent. Employee experiences should be consistent and not one-off. I think that is the biggest thing which needs to be in the future of work. It cannot be a one-off phenomena. It cannot be a one-off Soham Parekh. If there are Soham Parekhs, accept that yes, there are Soham Parekhs, and allow Soham Parekhs to be there. If they can manage, if you can manage with them, why not? And gigs are the future of work. Let me tell you, Abhijit. Like, this is my experience of dealing with Gen Zs and millennials and boomers. Now, boomers, because they find it difficult to get hired at a certain age, they are looking at gigs. But Gen Z, who are there in the hot spot, are still choosing gigs. And just think. It's amazing and it's baffling saying that they are choosing because they want to do multiple gigs. Why is it wrong? And the best example of this is, like to conclude, I would say, you remember in school where everybody used to compete and there used to be an annual prize day where people used to be the best in studies, the best in sports, and the best all-rounder.
Right.
I was the best all-rounder trophy girl. So if I'm an all-rounder in school, why can I not be an all-rounder in corporate? That means my entire schooling is only wrong. Then change my schooling. Let's go and change the basics, right? So yeah, that's what the future of work is. Being an all-rounder and just being consistent in whatever you're doing and being more adaptable. Not being perfect, but being adaptable. I think that's a very important thing for us to do. Nobody wants perfect today. So stop being perfect. Stop trying to impress people in interviews by trying to be perfect. Nobody cares.
Adaptability.
So that's what it is.
I think that's a beautiful parting thought. I think our audience will be very thankful. So that brings us to the end of this interview, Nazneen. And this has been, by the way, super insightful. Thanks for sharing so many insights and so many sassy terms in your parlance.
If you found our efforts useful, please like and share and subscribe for more content. For teams looking to hire smarter, explore our AI interviewer platform at Crelytics.co.